All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It's Saturday. It's our top 10. Not my top 10. It's actually your top 10. And I'm just going to tell you if it's right or wrong. It's the most added players across all of fantasy basketball here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Besbris. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, and you can like, rate, and subscribe to the show. And at this point in the year, I'm assuming you've done it. So I'm going to try to lay off you a little bit. Although YouTubers, please do hit the like button. It does matter. It kind of gets the show into more feeds. And then maybe a couple new people will see my stupid face and want to watch it. The show is brought to you by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. Looks like we've got a double logo on the screen right now. Let's remove that. Love FanDuel, but they don't need to have it 2 times in almost like a, what is that? When one is, it's like a drop shadow of the other one. I can't think of the right word. It's early on a Saturday. I'll get around to it. Here are the most added players across all of fantasy basketball. The top 10. This is by volume on Yahoo, but this is sort of across the fantasy landscape. Number 1 is Maxime Raynaud. Number 2 is Keon Ellis. Number 3, Isaiah Collier. Number 4 is Sandro Mamukelashvili. Number 5, Herb Jones. Number 6, Cam Spencer. 7 is Bub Carrington. 8, Jamal Shead. Number 9 is Saddiq Bey. And rounding out the top 10 is Marcus Smart. I was a little worried that we were going to have kind of a lame list today, but I actually kind of like these names. So let's just dive straight into number 1. That's Maxime Raynaud, the, currently the starting center on the Sacramento Kings. And off the news we got yesterday, which is that Domantas Sabonis is out at least another month, basically. Maxime Raynaud is the starter for the presumably next month or so. We don't know that for sure. The Kings do have Drew Eubanks on roster. I guess technically Dylan Cardwell, Precious Achiuwa, those guys could log center minutes. But right now, Raynaud is the guy. He's played 32 minutes a game over the last week. Admittedly, a low-tide week in terms of games played. He's averaged 18.5 points, 8.5 rebounds, and a steal over that stretch. He is a center, so the field goal percent is generally going to be decent. A rookie, so maybe not outstanding. And he's not a terrible free throw shooter, although lately he's getting the line, maybe you'd argue, too often for a guy who shoots in the mid to high 70s at the charity stripe. His rank over the last week is 116th. And, there's a little bit of hair splitting going on. I'm hoping that I can get the game log to come up. Yahoo, you got a game log for me here? This is what I'd like to display. There we go. So you can see, most of the damage he did was in this most recent ball game at Portland. That was a couple days ago now, where he had, there we go, 29 points, 11 rebounds, and a couple of steals. The game before that, he had 8 and 6. Game before that was 15 and 9. He's probably not going to be a huge defensive stats guy. That's unlikely to be a big strength of his. He's not really spacing the floor, so more of a traditional look. And he's not going to get a ton of assists because he's still kind of learning things. But, if we're going to get scoring in the teens and we're going to get rebounds in the 7 to 10 range, and we're going to get 1 to 2 assists, and we're going to get, probably a combined 1.4 defensive stats, something in that range, that's a guy that does belong on rosters. So certainly a burger play. He's a fill-in, but Sabonis is out a while. So it's a pretty long-term fill-in, meaning he needs to be on rosters. And I think he's probably going to hover in the 90 to 100 range, something like that. So decent, not outstanding, but definitely does belong on rosters. Next name on the board, we'll try to do this in 20 minutes today. Let's see if we can hit our goal, is Keon Ellis, who's now played 30-plus minutes in consecutive ball games for, I believe, the first time this year. Yeah, quick check reveals that is indeed the case. He has 10 steals over those 2 games. He has a block. He has only hit 2 3-pointers, but he's attempted 13 of them. He has 7 assists in that span. And he's not scoring all that much, but that's not really why you'd be looking at Keon Ellis. So Ellis is an interesting case because Kings brass have come out and said, this is a guy that we want to get more playing time the rest of the way this year. They talk about, the back half of the season. We're not at the halfway point of the year yet, but believe it or not, we're not that all that like we're a third of the way in. So we've made some pretty good headway on this NBA season. Unfortunately, the big reason why Ellis has had this jump up in play is that guys have been out. Schroeder's been in and out of the lineup. Monk's been in and out of the lineup. Zach LaVine has been hurt lately, and that's been sort of the big jump for him. But again, is this the opening that the Kings front office needed to say, hey, it's time to just get him in there and let him go? So I'm inclined. Welcome to winter break, everyone. Can you hear the screaming in the background? We're off and running here on what's sure to be a lovely 3 weeks. Is this going to be, like a Wally Pip situation where we've had a couple of guys already that have started as injury replacements this year and then ended up as something more? Con Kneppel being the first one, although as a rookie, he was probably going to grow into that job at some point. But Jalen Tyson may be the better example of this, of a guy that didn't look like he was going to get to do a whole lot, and then guys were out and he excelled, and so then they just gave him the starting job. Cavs haven't looked that great in the couple of games since he's slotted in, but, he's there. So is this going to be that kind of thing where Keon Ellis gets these extra minutes, guys come back, but Keon's not the guy that loses out? So what do? Well, my inclination is to say, get out in front of it, because Zach LaVine is out, we think, for another couple of ball games, dealing with an ankle sprain. I don't know what happened with Malik Monk. I still can't figure out where he disappeared to in the last ball game. And Sabonis is still out for a bit. So, and Schroeder's back now. So that's like, Ellis got the minutes despite Dennis being around. We know Monk is on the trade block. We know LaVine is on the trade block. We know DeRozan's on the trade block. The Kings are going nowhere very fast. So what's the harm in kind of getting out in front of this one? I actually like Keon Ellis as a guy to pick up in most formats. I think if you can sort of jump in front of this one, you have a chance to get a whole lot of steals. And we also know that he's a top 100 guy if he plays 25 minutes a ball game. So he's like, anything over that, you just sort of like stockpiling. I say pick him up. Roto, you can keep on your bench if you want to. I mean, if there are enough guys out in the next ball game, then you don't need to. What if he gets a starting gig coming up here? I say do it. I say pick him up and then deal with the after effects later. Player number 3 is Isaiah Collier. He's had a couple of good ones in a row now. But I remain skeptical. I know that the Jazz are going into tank mode, and so it's weird for me to say one thing about Keon Ellis and the other about Collier, but it just feels like there are too many point guard type players in Utah that are part of the rebuild. Whereas like with the Kings, the guys that are in Keon Ellis's way are not part of a rebuild. The guys that are in Isaiah Collier's way are. Walter Clayton, Keontae George in particular. And yeah, I know Collier has 29 assists in his last 3 ball games, so it's hard to completely ignore that. But he's still coming off the bench mostly. And yes, the Jazz are starting to rest key guys, and so maybe that opens up things more. But even when Collier was playing a lot last year, we saw that he was pretty much a one-trick pony, a low percentages, ultra assist specialist. And that was kind of it. He's not a big steals guy. He's fine, but he's not a big steals guy. Not a good free throw shooter. Not a good field goal guy. Doesn't hit 3-pointers. It's one. You're getting one category. And it's hard to find one, so I get it. He's going to get added in a lot of places. But I'm of the opinion that you got to be better. You got to be good enough at more than one thing if I'm going to put you on my roster. And for Collier, it's really one thing. So that was Isaiah Collier. Sandro, number 4, Mamukelashvili. A wide-bodied, slightly undersized backup center who is really playing well right now. But, and it's a wide but the time to use him is spot play. And, well, I mean, we're waiting on the ruling here. The ruling being whether Jakob Poeltl is in or out for the Raptors' next ball game. Poeltl sat the last one, which Was not on my expectation chart. That was a Thursday game where Jakob had played one game over about a week prior, and he sat that one out. Now the Raptors have a back-to-back coming up this weekend. He's going to sit one of those games, and Sandro is going to be a guy you're going to want to play in the other one. The good thing about head-to-head leagues is he's a back-to-back, so you're going to get 15 to 18 minutes in one game where he'll give you something, probably not a ton, but, 6 points, 3 rebounds, a steal, and a 3 or something like that. And then in the other one, he'll play full starters minutes, which is what we've seen the last couple of Pirtle rest days, and score in the teens and get you between 5 and 8 rebounds and between 1 and 4 assists and usually a steal, maybe more, maybe a block, maybe 1 to 2 3-pointers. It can be a pretty well-rounded line for Sandro when he's going to get those 27 or more minutes per game. So one of these next two for Roto is going to be playable for Sandro. The back-to-back is going to be a good one for him on the head-to-head side, and that's why you're seeing him getting at it a lot, because he's really in a nothing-to-lose posture. If you pick him up on Roto and Pirtle does play tonight, then you just bench Sandro and play him tomorrow. And if you pick him up and Pirtle sits tonight, Jakob is questionable as of right now for this ball game, then you play him in the first one and you drop him before the second one. Head-to-head, you just roll with him for both. You don't have to use another move. You're gonna get games played. Terrific. Player number 5. Lost track. Herb. Lockdown Herb. Herb Jones is coming off he's had a couple of pretty good ball games lately as we try to get the game log to load. Come on, you dumb thing. Load the game log, please. I'm trying here. I'm trying my best to be the shepherd. There we go. Sometimes I have to refresh the page a few times. So Herb came back from injury on December the 8th and came roaring back. He had 17 points, 4 steals and a block, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. Then he kind of did nothing for 2 games. Then he exploded in 38 minutes of their last one, the win, and they've won 3 games in a row over the Rockets. I think that was an overtime game with 19 points, 8 steals and a block, 2 3-pointers, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Here's the issue with Herb. He really doesn't want to shoot. 7-8 shots a game is what you should be expecting. He's not actually taking a ton of 3-pointers. Like I thought the ratio would be a little bit higher, but it's like half-ish of his shots these days. The steals are always going to be there. That's Herb. And his percentages are usually pretty good. That tends to be one of his, I don't want to say claims to fame, but the hallmarks of why coming into this season, I thought Herb was a reasonable guy to try to pick up in like the 130, 140 range of drafts was because he's a high percentages 3 and D guy, meaning you actually don't need as much 3 and D to get Herb to value because he typically helps you in the percentages. So far this year, he's shooting just 40% from the field, though, so that actually hasn't been the case. 81% at the free throw line is fine, but it's not really a positive or a negative. Thanks to almost 2 steals a game, he's ranked 140th, but 10 points, 1.5 threes, 4 boards, 2 assists is just not much. If you're punting points, he can make sense. Herb is not great in punt points, but he's certainly startable. And believe it or not, punt field goal, he's actually been pretty close to startable as well, but that's not the thing you should have been banking on. So I think Herb is probably more of a high-level streamer this year as opposed to a guy that you pick up and you're just like, oh, this is going to be great the rest of the way. My expectation is that because of the likely down games, they're probably not all going to be great like this last one. And he might have another one. Maybe he just gets hot for a few games in a row. But I think he's more of a steals streamer. Before we get to the next one, a reminder, please follow on social media at Dan Vespris. Big thank you to our partners over at FanDuel. Check them out if you want to get down on some MVP odds or whatever futures. Like, who do you think is going to make the finals? Who's going to win it? You can do all that and so much more over at FanDuel. And then thank you again to everybody that has become a member lately. I've made this little extra push on YouTube to try to get a few of you to sign up, and a few of you have signed up. So thank you. You guys are amazing. It's 99 cents. It's a number that I'm hoping none of you guys miss in the long or short term. But again, if a few hundred of you guys do it, and we're getting there, it makes a big difference. It covers up those dead days for me, and you get access to me. If you're posting on the YouTube stuff and you're a member, I'll see it, and it'll actually highlight your old posts as well. So I've been going through and I've been checking out all the old stuff that recent signups. So like you could have posted 20 things over the last 2 months, and if you sign up for a membership now for 99 cents, you're first of all, you're like helping keep everything free for everybody else forever. But I'll see all your old posts and I'll respond to them because I'm a little bit of a lunatic like that. So consider becoming a member on YouTube or Patreon. It's 99 cents. You get access to me and you help us reach our goal of keeping everything free forever and ever and ever. Next name on the list is Cam Spencer. Let's see if we can get that game log to load. No, you're going to do this again, Yahoo? There's the game log. Cam Spencer is on a heater for the freaking ages. I mean, just look at the game log here. Look at the 3-point shooting over really a month now. Here's November 22nd. November 20th, he shot 1 of 8 from downtown. Okay? And I mean, he's a good shooter. There's no doubt about that. But since November 22nd, he's gone 3 of 5, 3 of 6, 3 of 4, 2 of 5. I know, heaven forbid, he shot under 50% from downtown. 4 of 5, 3 of 4, 3 of 5, 1 of 5. I want to do like the Home Alone face in that one, but he did have 4 steals that game. 6 of 6 and 7 of 10 in his last 2 games. That's 13 out of 16 from 3-point land. And so, because of that, over that stretch, he scored in double figures in every single one of those games. He has that 1-4 steal game, but for the most part, he's not really getting steals. And he's been better than expected in assists over that span. Although, I think you could certainly argue that some of that has to do with Ja Morant being out, who is out again, by the way. So, where do I stand on Cam Spencer? He's a guy that I would probably play while Ja Morant is out because you're probably going to get scoring in the teens. You're probably going to get anywhere from 2 to 5 3-pointers, depending on how often teams leave him open because he's feeling confident these days. And when guys are on heaters like this, they just think everything is going in. The problem, of course, is he's going to cool off eventualmente. Eventually, he's going to cool off. He's shooting 51% from downtown on the year, and he's more like 60% over the last month. That's just not a number that's going to hold. He's a 50-50-90 guy right now, and that is floating his numbers in a huge way. So feel free to ride the hot hand. Cam Spencer is very, very, very much the hot hand, but as soon as he cools off, his minutes are likely to dwindle as well, and you'll see the Grizzlies just sort of lean to whoever else might be getting hot in that moment. So Cam Spencer, very high-level streamer, kind of a stream while hot guy. Let's move on to the next one. Bub. Next one is Bub. And I probably need to soften my stance on Bub a little bit. His minutes have been trending up in a big, big way. Here's my issue. I've seen nothing from Bub to make me think that his fantasy holes are about to get covered up. Because forget the game log. Because the game log, things look good. He has 14, 9 assists. Then he had 27 and 8, 11, 3 and 5, 15, 5 and 3 with a steal and a block and 3 3-pointers. His game log looks great. You know, if you're looking at just the last week, Bub looks like a freaking world beater. What's he ranked over the last week? 115th? I mean, even that is like questionable. I think 2 weeks he's actually been better than that. Yeah, past 2 weeks he's top 75. Over that stretch, he's averaging 17 points, 3 threes, 4 boards, 6 assists, a steal on 49% shooting. But again, if we go back and just look at what he's been through his NBA career so far, he's been a slightly sub-average free throw shooter, a very low field goal percent guy, doesn't get steals, doesn't get blocks, rebounds a little, but not much, and can assist if he's the primary, which a lot of the time he's not, although lately maybe a little bit more so, and certainly this year we figured a little bit more so because Poole and Kuzma and those guys are all gone. But they've still got McCollum in there, and I know Middleton is out right now, but they had Middleton in there, and Alex Sarr is still more of a primary. And so when you look at Bub Carrington, you're trying to figure out what would it take to get this guy to fantasy value. The answer is an absolute boatload of usage, which he sort of has over the last 2 weeks, 4 or 5 games or so. I cannot possibly fathom that this is going to stick. So what I'd suggest on Bub Carrington is he's a guy that you could pick up in head to head to see how this little span goes. And if, as Koulibaly gets ramped up, or if Middleton shows back up again, if that's the thing that kind of dethrones him, then so be it. With Roto, there are too many gaps, not enough defensive stats, bad percentages, like roll that all together and he's going to do more harm than good. Head to head, obviously you can have a build where you're like, oh, I'm punting field goal, so I don't really have a problem with this, or I'm punting steal, so I don't have a problem with this. That makes it a little bit more playable. Where I have him ranked on my sheets is still a high volume schedule stream guy. If this keeps up, I could shift him over. We'll probably bump him up to in fact, right now, he probably deserves to be moved over to a low volume schedule guy, which I know sounds worse, but it's actually better, meaning he doesn't need quite as great a game volume to be useful. But if he keeps this pace up, I'll shift him over to the -1 board. He's not that far off from the -1 board, but you're not going to get him on my team in Roto. Jamal Shead, number 8 on our list right now. He's been on a pretty good little assists binge lately, but there's a lack of safety with Jamal Shead that I don't feel like I need to go into too much detail on. Over the last 2 weeks, he's playing 26 minutes a game, and he's averaging 11 and 8, and he's outside the top 180 because he's shot the ball terribly. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't get any defensive stats. Actually, his free throws have been weirdly low over that stretch as well. So, again, we're talking about another assist specialist kind of guy. But what I would point at is this one ball game here where he played 33 minutes and had 18 points in addition to the 8 assists instead of a lot of these other ones where it's been 8 points and good assists. That was the game that Emmanuel quickly sat out. It feels like, and I don't want to say it's a 1-to-1 correlation, but when the NBA in this sort of positional fluidity era, the one, sometimes 2 times that you see backups step into a perfectly tailored role is a point guard backup. And that's what Shead is. He's the backup point guard on this team. And when there are a lot of guys healthy, he's mostly just walking into the front court and coming around a screen and handing it off and getting it to the guy who's going to take the shot. And that's how you rack up a ton of assists without really doing anything else. He's not rebounding. He's not stealing. He got a few steals a couple weeks ago. He went on a weird little steals barrage, but largely, I mean, his steals numbers are not terrible. I shouldn't completely discount them. But he's not a guy that you're going to use in Roto right now. With head-to-head, Shead is a pretty good injury replacement because he's getting more minutes with RJ Barrett out, but the big one was quickly. So head-to-head leaguers, roll with it if you need assists. I think he's one of the safer assist plays, at least while RJ's out, even more so perhaps than the guys we already talked about, like Bub Carrington or Isaiah Collier. I'd rather go Jamal Shead because it feels like he's played 20-plus minutes in 7 consecutive ball games, and yeah, some of those the assists weren't as high. But it feels like his minutes are safer than the other guys. But Roto, there's almost no chance I'm playing him right now. He's just not good enough at other stuff. He's 1.5 categories, and you need more than that if you're playing straight 9-cat. If you're just, in a head-to-head weekly battle and you got to try to make up ground in assists, that's a guy that you could probably grab and roll with. Number 9, we're getting close to the end of the line here. Saddiq Bey, who I figured was sort of dead in the water, and then came back out and had himself a really nice ball game his last time. Zion's back. Jordan Poole is back. This felt like it was going to be sort of the end of the Saddiq Bey mega run. And then he posted 29 and 9 with 2 steals, 3 threes, 4 free throw shooting. It's just, I don't want to say it's out of nowhere, but Herb's in, Poole's in, Zion's in. When that's been the case before, Saddiq Bey kind of vanished. He started playing minutes in the low 20s. I mean, you can look at the game log of what things looked like before everybody got hurt. He wasn't really doing very much. And then guys went down, and he got really, really awesome over that span. I think I don't want to say that I was wrong. I don't want to get stuck in a take that I had before. But, I mean, so 10-6 in the previous ball game without any threes. That's more like what I thought we were going to see from Bey with the Pelicans healthy. If you have him on your roster, probably just hold for another day and see what happens. If you don't have him, and maybe we get this one wrong, maybe. But I do think that he probably trends towards a high-level streamer. I think that's where I have him on my mega board. Where is my Bey board? Yeah, I have him as very, very good streamer. I think that's probably where he ends up, despite the fact that his last ball game was obviously way, way above that. I mean, that was a start everywhere kind of ball game. But you guys want to know what I think is going to happen as opposed to what already happened. What I think is going to happen is I think Bey is going to be a super high-level streamer. And I think he'll settle back into, 12, 13 points, 6 boards, like top 120 to 150 range, which isn't bad, but probably not a guy that you're starting every day. But again, like if you have him and they're playing today, right? I think they're playing today. You might as well just let that ride. Roto, I'm too nervous. And the last name on our top 10 is, and Yahoo's being weird about the game log again. There it is. Marcus. Switch what I'm sharing. Smart. Marcus Smart. He has a pretty big window right now. No Gabe Vincent, no Austin Reeves, no DeAndre Ayton, although I don't know that necessarily changes Marcus Smart's job much, if only to put, a few more shots back into the bucket that Jackson Hayes is not going to be as comfortable taking. Smart is your prototypical 3-and-D. He had 26 points in that NBA Cup game. That was on 8 3-pointers. Then he had 8 and 6, which is more like kind of what you expect with a steal and a couple of blocks. Last ball game, he had 17 points, but didn't really have any assists in that game. I think there's probably enough. Now, if he goes ice cold from 3, that's how this thing turns on its head. If he stays adequate, I don't even need him to be hot from 3-point land. I just need him to be adequate. He should be able to post top 100 value because you're going to get between 1 and 2 steals a game out of Marcus when he's playing starters minutes. You're probably going to get somewhere between half and a full block out of Marcus playing starters minutes. We should see somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 assists in starters minutes. Not many rebounds, but he seems to be sort of bungling his way into 3 of those as well. And then the hope is that he can get up around 3 threes per game. I don't know if that's going to stick, but that's kind of what we're gunning for right now. So I think Marcus Smart's probably playable. Again, there's a little bit of a specialist thing going on with threes, steals, blocks, but you're getting a smattering of points and assists as well. So that makes him a little more roto-friendly, more so than some of these other guys who are, again, like we talked about, kind of one-trick ponies. So I think Smart is probably a burger board guy. I would give him one full hamburger of ranking somewhere in that 80 to 110 range, probably in this mega fill-in job that he's been gifted. And that's where I'm at with that one. And I'll throw the full list back up on the board just so you guys can see the names again. Let me get this up there. There they are. There's all 10. Raynaud, Ellis, Collier, Sandro, Herb, Cam Spencer, Bub, Shead, Bay, and Smart. Those are the 10. If you want to remember what I talked about, Raynaud, definitely a guy you play while Sabonis is out. Ellis is a guy I think I'd like to get out in front of. I'm going to add him in a bunch of spots and see what happens. Collier, I would treat as a specialist. Sandro, play him when Pirtle's out or for the back-to-back right now in head-to-head. Herb, I think he ends up as a really high-level streamer. Cam Spencer, play him while he's hot, but he's going to cool off, so expect him to end up back on waiver wires. Bub's a guy I think you could maybe play in head-to-head, but I don't want him in roto. Shead, specialist, just like Collier. Bay, he was much better in his last ball game, but I do think he trends towards high-level streamer. Marcus Smart, Burger Man. He's a Burger Man until Austin Reeves comes back, at which point you move on. So any of these guys, a rest of season dude, the one that I could point at and say has a chance would be Keon Ellis. Herb maybe has a chance. And then you've got, well, Ellis right now is a burger guy, as is Raynaud and Marcus Smart and Sandro when he has his chance. Those are, to me, the kind of safest names on that board. All right, those are the 10 most interesting names right now, at least according to you guys. Oh, this is zoomed way out. You guys can't see what I'm talking about. Sorry, YouTubers. Hit the like button on your way out. Big deal. We want to push this thing into the feed right out of the chute, especially you guys that are watching this show immediately. Hit that like button right now so we can keep growing the site. Subscribe, new friends. And if you have 99 cents, consider a membership. It is actually, believe it or not, more helpful than you realize because you're not the only one doing it. And it's going to help us get through those dead months, too. That's really when it's going to come in handy. I'm Dan Besbris. Thanks for watching again, everybody. At Dan Besbris on the Twitters, DanBesbris. Thanks again to FanDuel and the Believe Network. And I think that's it for Saturday. I'm not doing a second show today. Kingy will be back with a late Saturday show. He was out of town. That's why you didn't get the recap. So you'll have Kingy tonight and me tomorrow. Probably a weekly preview. I'll figure it out on. All right.